Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Lubna from Anatomy Department, PGMI Lahore. After discussing the important features of the external auditory meatus and the auricle, which was the external ear, now we move on to the next part of ear, which is the middle ear cavity or the tympanic cavity. As you can see in this diagram, we can see all the three parts of ear, which is the outer ear. Let me just encircle this so you know what I'm talking about. This is the external ear. Then the next thing that we are talking about right now is the middle ear, and in the next class I'm going to teach you about the internal ear. Okay? Now, talking about the subdivisions of this cavity, the middle ear cavity, because I just showed you where this cavity is located, you can see easily that the lateral wall of this cavity, let us go to the previous slide, this one. As you can see, the lateral wall of this cavity is formed by the tympanic membrane, okay, and there are certain contents of this cavity that we're going to discuss in the next slides. And you can see a medial wall, you can see roof of this cavity, you can see the floor of this cavity. If you want, I can just mark them. This is the lateral wall, this is the medial wall, this is the roof, this is the floor, and this wall that you see is the posterior wall of the tympanic cavity. Okay, now this cavity is divided, it is subdivided into three parts. As you can see, there is a portion that is colored green. This is epitympanum or attic. We call this attic. Okay. Then this portion that you see, which lies immediately medial to the tympanic membrane, is the tympanic cavity proper, and the portion that lies below the level of the tympanic membrane, we call this hypotympanum. So we subdivide this tympanic cavity into a tympanic cavity proper, an attic, which is the epitympanum, and a lower part which lies at the level lower to the tympanic membrane, and we call that hypotympanum. In this slide, you can see that the attic is the part of the middle ear cavity which lies at a level higher than the tympanic membrane, and you can see that some of the structures of the middle ear cavity, they extend into the attic or the epitympanum. We're going to discuss about these structures, which are the contents of the middle ear cavity, in the next slides. Okay, now talking about the dimensions of the middle ear cavity, you can see roughly in this figure the shape of the middle ear cavity. The vertical and the anteroposterior diameters of this cavity are each about 15 millimeters and 13 millimeters respectively. The transverse diameter measures about 6 millimeters above, 4 millimeters below, and in the center opposite the tympanic membrane it is only about 2 millimeters. Here it is only about 2 millimeters because of the location and position of the tympanic membrane. As we discussed in our previous class, the tympanic membrane is located such that the concavity faces laterally and the convexity faces medially, and umbo was the point of maximum concavity of the tympanic membrane. Now because of this convexity medially, we can see that the dimensions of the middle ear cavity is smallest hair, which is about 2 millimeters. This is the reason that here it is reduced to this low 2 millimeter size. Okay, this is very important if we consider the short answer questions, and this is about the contents of the middle ear cavities. We can ask you in the short answer questions that enumerate the contents of the middle ear cavity, and air is the first thing that you must write in the list of the contents of middle ear cavity. So number 1 is air. Number 2 is ear ossicles. Ossicles are the bones, the small bones of the middle ear cavity. Their names are malleus, incus, and stapes. Now malleus is the hammer, incus is the anvil, and stapes is the stirrup. Okay, the muscles are also present in the middle ear cavity. These are 2 muscles. One is tensor tympani and the other one is stapedius. I'll show you the pictures of these muscles and then origin, insertion, nerve supply and actions in the coming slides. Then we have mucosal folds which cover these structures and all the walls of the middle ear cavity. Then there are certain nerves present in the middle ear cavity. We're also going to talk about these nerves in the next slides. And then there are vessels. So you need to learn all the names of these ossicles and muscles and nerves and vessels. Okay. Now this is a rough diagram just to show you how this cavity has the roof and the floor and the anterior wall and the posterior wall. So we can compare this cavity with a cube. You consider this as a cubical form. In fact, it is not cubical, as I have shown you the dimensions, that there are different at different levels. Okay, let me tell you this. Now we are looking at this cavity, which is the right middle ear cavity, and we are looking at it from the lateral side. Okay, so we are standing laterally and we are looking at the middle ear cavity of a person whose face is here on the right and back of the head is here, because we can see the mastoid process here. Okay, so this wall is the anterior wall, this is the posterior wall, this is the roof, this is the floor, and this circular thing that you see here, this is present on the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. Okay. Let's talk about the walls of the middle ear cavity in detail. Okay, first of all, let's see where the roof is. The roof is formed, the roof is formed here. This is the tegmen tympani. This bone is tegmen tympani, and it separates the tympanic cavity below from middle cranial fossa above. Okay. Now the next is the floor, which is this. The floor is here. A thin bone separates the tympanic cavity from the superior bulb of internal jugular vein. Next is the anterior wall, which is a thin bone which separates the tympanic cavity from internal carotid artery, and at its upper parts are openings of 2 canals, the auditory canal and a canal for the tensor tympani muscle. I'll show you these two canals in the next slides. Right now I just want you to focus how these walls separate the tympanic cavity from very important structures and cavities around. Okay, now next just have a look at the posterior wall, which is this. Now the posterior wall has editous to the mastoid antrum superiorly and pyramid inferiorly. Okay, now editous means entry. So posteriorly we know that we have this mastoid process and it has air cells in it. So editous is the entry into these air cells. So we call it editous to the mastoid antrum. And pyramid is a bony projection on the posterior wall. Okay, the lateral wall where we are standing right now is the tympanic membrane. Okay, and above the level of the tympanic membrane we have the lateral wall, the lateral bony wall of attic superiorly. So superiorly we have the lateral attic wall, which is made of bone, and inferior to that we have the tympanic membrane making up the lateral wall. Okay, now the medial wall is made up by the lateral wall of the inner ear. As we know that medial to the tympanic cavity lies the internal ear. So the lateral wall of the internal ear makes up the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. Okay, this is another view. In the last slide we had a look at the tympanic cavity from the lateral aspect. I told you that let's suppose that we're standing in place of the tympanic membrane and we're having a look at the tympanic cavity. So in front of our face is the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. Now this picture that you're seeing right now, it has another view. As you can see that we can see the tympanic membrane here. This is the tympanic membrane. This yellow wall is the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. The orange wall is the posterior wall of the tympanic cavity, and the pink wall on which 1 is written is the roof of the tympanic cavity, and light green wall, which is numbered as 2, makes up the floor of the tympanic cavity. So that means we're having a look at the tympanic cavity and we're standing right next to the interior wall, or we can say that we are standing right next to the anterior wall and we're having a look at the tympanic cavity. So we can see the yellow medial wall, we can see the blue lateral wall, we can see the posterior orange wall, we can see the roof pink, and we can see the floor too, right? Okay, here also we can see different structures in the middle ear cavity, but first I want you to completely understand the location of the walls of the middle ear cavity, and once you understand that, then we're going to talk about the contents of the middle ear cavity. Okay, this is the same that I showed you 2 slides back. This is the lateral wall removed. We're standing instead right next to the tympanic membrane, and we're having a look at the medial wall right in front of our face. We're having a look at the anterior wall, which is this. We're having a look at the posterior wall, the roof, tegment tympani. This is the floor, and this is the medial wall. Okay. Now there's another thing that I want to tell you here, that we have given names to these walls. Okay, and this is in relation to important structures that are present around. For example, I say I say that the anterior wall is named as carotid wall because it separates the tympanic cavity from the internal carotid artery and the carotid canal superiorly. So we name it the carotid canal, right? Similarly, the posterior wall is named as the mastoid wall. This mastoid wall because of the presence of mastoid process at the back. So anterior carotid wall, posterior is mastoid wall. Then we can see that the roof is made up by the tegment tympani. So we call this wall as the tegmental wall. This is the tegmental wall. The floor is formed by a layer of bone that separates the tympanic cavity from the superior bulb of the internal jugular vein. So we call this the jugular wall. Okay. The lateral wall is made up by the tympanic membrane. So we call the lateral wall as the membranous wall. Where we are standing right now, the medial wall separates the tympanic cavity from the internal ear, and so we call and the internal ear. The other name for the internal ear is labyrinth, right? Labyrinth, Labyrinth, labyrinth. So this wall, this medial wall, is called labyrinthine wall, right? Labyrinthine wall. So this is tegmental. Let me just revise it quickly. This is tegmental wall, jugular wall, carotid wall, mastoid wall, labyrinthine wall, and lateral wall, which is not visible in this picture, is the membranous wall because of the tympanic membrane. Okay, now let us consider each wall individually, so we can also discuss the important anatomical landmarks on each wall in the next slides. Okay, first of all, we're going to talk about the anterior wall. The anterior wall is formed below by a thin plate of bone that separates the tympanic cavity from the internal carotid artery. There are two canals that you see here, right, in the upper part of the anterior wall. The upper smaller one is the canal for tensor tympani muscle, and the lower larger is for the auditory tube or eustachian tube. Now here you can see these two canals are this one, right? This is the this muscle that you see is the tensor tympani muscle. So there's a canal made up in the anterior wall for the passage of this muscle, and this is the tensor tympani muscle, and we have a canal for the tensor tympani muscle. This lower and larger is the auditory tube canal for the eustachian tube, which is connecting the middle ear cavity with the pharynx. Eustachian tube or the pharyngotympanic tube. Okay. Okay, now we come over to the posterior wall of the tympanic cavity. The posterior wall has an irregular opening called edetus of antrum. This brown portion that you see here, this brown portion is edetus of antrum. Okay. Below the edetus is the fossa incudis, which houses short process of incus and its suspensory ligament. So below the edetus we have fossa incudis. Below the fossa incudis, a conical projection called pyramid is attached to the stapedius muscle and tendon. Okay. So stapedius is a bony projection. This that you see here I have pointed this bony projection. Let me just this. The arrow is pointing towards the pyramid, which is a conical bony projection. From the apex of this conical bony projection arises a muscle which is called stapedius. Okay. Okay, now we come over to the medial wall. Now there are very important structures on the medial wall. The medial wall separates the tympanic cavity from the internal ear. The important anatomical landmarks that you see on the medial wall of the tympanic cavity are the promontory. This is the promontory. This round projection, this is promontory, and this is made up by the basal turn. This elevation is made up by the basal turn of the cochlea. Cochlea is the hearing organ in the internal ear, and we're going to talk about it when we'll discuss the features of internal ear. Right now you just need to know that the promontory is an elevation made up by the basal turn of the cochlea. It elevates a mucosal fold into the tympanic cavity. As a result of that, we can see this round elevation in the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. Then we have an oval window, we have a round window, we have subiculum, we have ponticulus, we have a canal for facial nerve, we have processus cochleiformis, and we have sinus tympani. Now one by one I'm going to tell you what these structures are. Now I already told you that we have three bony ossicles. We have malleus, incus, and stapes. Here you can see stapes, right? This bone, where it is pointing, this bone is stapes. The base of this stapes lies on the oval window. Oval window is a communication between the middle ear and the internal ear. Right now I'm just going to tell you that this is a communication between the middle ear and the internal ear. In the next slides I'm going to tell you a little detail about this oval window. Now the next is the round window. Look at the line where it is pointing. The arrow is pointing at the round window. So we have oval window, we have round window. Now the next two things I'm going to tell you about the subiculum and the ponticulus in the next slide. Now here I want you to have a look at the canal for facial nerve. This that you see is the genu of facial nerve. You already know what the facial nerve is, and you know that there's a genu, the sharp turn where the facial nerve turns and enters the medial wall of the tympanic cavity, where it runs through a bony canal which runs in the medial wall, which runs horizontally in the medial wall of the tympanic cavity till it reaches the posterior wall. Then it turns sharply downwards. Here you can see this passage of the facial nerve in the posterior wall of the tympanic cavity, and it emerges here at the stylomastoid foramen to give its branches for the muscles of the facial expression, right? So in the medial wall we see the bony canal for the facial nerve. Then there is processus cochleiformis. I want you to have a look at this thing. Now you can see the tensor tympani muscle above this. I have lined where I put the red line. This is the bony shelf in the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. This bony shelf is there, so the tensor tympani muscle can pass above this bony shelf, and then it has a sharp end projection. It has a sharp projection at the end here, around which the tendon of the tensor tympani muscle turns to take its course in the other direction, right? So it can be inserted onto the handle of malleus. This sharp conical projection of this bony shelf is called processus cochleaformis. I think in the next slide I'm going to show you a more clear form of processus cochleaformis. So processus cochleaformis is a bony projection at the end of a bony shelf which lies at the medial wall of the tympanic cavity. So the tendon of the tensor tympani muscle can turn sharply around that processus cochleaformis. Then we have sinus tympani. Sinus tympani is this. Now look at where it is pointing. The sinus tympani is a small fossa or a cavity. It's a sinus. It's a blind space that lies right below the pyramid, okay, in between the oval window and the round window. So the sinus tympani lies here, okay. Now this is another view of the medial wall where you can see this is the promontory, and these are the nerves which are making up the tympanic plexus. The tympanic plexus is made up by the glossopharyngeal nerve. A nerve comes from below. This is the tympanic nerve of Jacobson, and here the tympanic plexus is formed. So the nerve that comes down from here is the tympanic nerve of Jacobson, and the plexus of nerves is formed onto the promontory. We can also see the stapes. This is the stapes. This is the pyramid. A muscle arises from the pyramidal process which is called stapedius, and it is inserted onto the stapes, okay. The footplate of stapes lies onto the oval window. This is the round window. Then here we can see the bony canal for facial nerve. We can see the genu of the facial nerve here, and from the genu, can you see this nerve that arises? This is greater petrosal nerve, okay. Now here this elevation is this is an elevation made up by the lateral semicircular canal. This is also a part of the internal ear. So I'm not going to discuss here right now what is lateral semicircular canal. I just want you to know that these elevations are produced because of the structures of the internal ear, and this structure is made up by the basal turn of cochlea. This elevation is made up by the lateral semicircular canal, okay. Now I told you that I'm going to tell you about the ponticulus and subiculum. Ponticulus and subiculum are two small bony projections which are present on the medial wall of the tympanic cavity posterior to the promontory. Ponticulus is the upper projection postero-superior to the promontory. Above the ponticulus is the oval window. Subiculum is the lower projection postero-inferior to promontory. Below the subiculum is the round window. Now if you have a look at this diagram, this is the promontory, this stapes, the footplate of stapes is closing the oval window. This is the round window, okay. I told you that the sinus tympani lies below the pyramidal process here. the pyramidal process in between the oval window and the round window. So subiculum is the upper projection posterior to promontory. This is ponticulus. And the lower projection postero-inferior to the promontory is the subiculum. So these are bony projections that arise from the posterior to the promontory. One is postero-superior, the other one is postero-inferior, and they just present here. You can identify them well. This is ponticulus, this is subiculum. Okay. Okay, now coming over to the lateral wall of the middle ear cavity, which is the tympanic membrane. Here in this diagram, you can see the convexity of the tympanic membrane. We're having a look at the tympanic membrane from the medial aspect, right? So we can look at the medial aspect of the tympanic cavity, where we can see that this is the handle of malleus. This is incus, this green bone is incus, and we can also see a nerve that passes through these two bony ossicles. This nerve, this is cauda tympani nerve. It passes over the pars flaccida. Okay, so just remember the name of this nerve. This is cauda tympani nerve, and it is a branch of the facial nerve. It's coming from facial nerve. It has two important components. Okay, let's talk about this when I'm going to tell you about the course of this nerve. Then I'm also going to tell you about the two important components of this cauda tympani nerve, a branch of the facial nerve. Okay, the roof is tegmen tympani. We already talked about it, that the thin bony plate which separates the middle ear cavity from the middle cranial fossa, formed by both the petrous and the squamous portions of the temporal bone. The petrosquamous suture line, which does not close until adult life, can provide a route of access for infection into the extradural space in children. Veins from the tympanic cavity running to the superior petrosal sinus pass through this suture line. Let's have a look at this suture. Here you can see that this is the petrosquamous suture. Okay, in this diagram you can see this petrotympanic fissure. From here arises the cauda tympani nerve. When it comes out of the middle ear cavity, it emerges out through this petrotympanic fissure. Now in this diagram also we can see the petrosquamous suture here. Okay, petrosquamous suture. Okay, the floor or the jugular wall separates the middle ear cavity from the superior bulb of the internal jugular vein. Okay, the nerves in the middle ear cavity. I already told you that the glossopharyngeal nerve, the tympanic nerve of Jacobson, arises from here and makes up the tympanic plexus on the promontory. From the tympanic plexus arises the lesser petrosal nerve. Okay, here it is not shown, but from the tympanic plexus arises the lesser petrosal nerve. Okay, from the genu here arises the greater petrosal nerve. This does not lie within the cavity of the middle ear. It is in the floor. It is in the roof of the middle ear cavity, and the greater petrosal nerve. Okay, then there is this facial nerve which passes through the bony canal for the facial nerve, horizontally in the medial wall and then vertically downwards in the posterior wall. And as you can see, while it is moving in the posterior wall vertically downwards, it gives a branch to the stapedius muscle here, which is called the nerve to stapedius. So these are the nerves in the middle ear cavity, which are the cauda tympani nerve, a branch of the facial nerve, the tympanic nerve of Jacobson, the tympanic plexus, the lesser petrosal nerve, the greater petrosal nerve, and nerve to stapedius. Here also we can see that the tympanic nerve of Jacobson arises here, makes up this plexus, and there's a branch coming from the sympathetic plexus around the internal carotid artery here. This branch carrying the sympathetic fibers joins this plexus, and then from this plexus arises the lesser petrosal nerve here and leaves the middle ear cavity. Then we can see that the round window is here, the oval window is here. Then this is the canal for the facial nerve. This is the canal made up by the lateral semicircular canal. These are the features that we see on the medial wall. Then anteriorly we see the pharyngotympanic tube, we see the tensor tympani muscle. Posteriorly we see the aretus to mastoid antrum, we see the vertical canal for the facial nerve running vertically downwards. We see pyramidal eminence from which arises the stapedius muscle. We also see a posterior canaliculus through which the cauda tympani nerve enters, and then all the way through the after it crosses the middle ear cavity, it leaves the middle ear cavity through this anterior canaliculus and comes out through the petrotympanic fissure that I just showed you in the norma basalis. Okay, so I was telling you about the cauda tympani nerve. The course of cauda tympani nerve is very important in the tympanic cavity. It arises above the stylomastoid foramen, enters the middle ear close to the posterior border of the tympanic membrane. It then runs forward over the tympanic membrane and crosses the root of the handle of the malleus, where it lies between the mucous membrane and the fibrous layer of tympanic membrane. It leaves the middle ear through petrotympanic fissure and enters the infratemporal fossa, where it joins the lingual nerve. Now, I was also talking about the two important components of this cauda tympani nerve. Cauda tympani nerve carries the parasympathetic secretomotor fibers to the submandibular and the sublingual glands, and it also takes up the taste fibers, the special afferent fibers from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, except the circumvallate papillae, as a branch of the facial nerve, and carries it up to the highest centers. So the two important components of the cauda tympani nerve are the parasympathetic secretomotor fibers and the special afferent taste fibers carrying from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue. Now the branches of the facial and the glossopharyngeal nerves in the tympanic cavity. I think I already discussed this in detail, so I don't need to repeat things. Okay, now the middle ear cavity is actually a cleft because it has communications all around. Okay, we already talked about that it is related laterally to the external ear, it is related medially to the internal ear, anteriorly it is communicating through the auditory tube or the eustachian tube with the pharynx, nasopharynx. Here you can see here you can see the communication of the middle ear cavity through the pharyngotympanic or the eustachian tube with the nasopharynx, and posteriorly it is communicating with the mastoid air cells through the antrum or aretus to the mastoid air cells. Okay? In short, it must be, the middle ear cavity must be considered as a cleft which communicates with all the important cavities and structures around. Posteriorly, it is communicating with the mastoid antrum and mastoid air cells. It is a cavity continuous with collection of air-filled spaces, the mastoid cells, throughout the mastoid part of temporal bone, including the mastoid process. It is separated from the middle cranial fossa above by only the thin bone, the tegmen tympani. Okay. The pharyngotympanic tube or the eustachian tube, which connects the middle ear cavity with the nasopharynx. The function of this tube is that it equalizes pressure on both sides of the tympanic membrane, so it doesn't rupture if there is a great difference of atmospheric pressure on both sides of the tympanic membrane. Its opening in the middle ear is on the anterior wall and extends forward, medially and downwards to enter the nasopharynx just posterior to the inferior meatus of the nasal cavity. It is about 3.5 centimeters in length, connects the tympanic cavity with the nasopharynx. The upper third of this tube adjoining the tympanic cavity has bony walls, while the remaining lower portion leading into the nasopharynx is made up of membrane and cartilage. The movement of the cilia of the ciliated epithelium lining the eustachian tube is towards the nasopharynx. At rest, the eustachian tube is in a collapsed state, but with each swallowing movement, it opens by contraction of the soft palatal muscles attached to it to let air into the tympanic cavity. And same happens when we yawn and we open our mouth, and the pressure is equalized on both sides of the tympanic membrane. The bones or the ossicles of the tympanic cavity, these are three ossicles: the malleus, the red malleus, the green incus, and the yellow stapes. The tympanic membrane, the three small bones that vibrate in response to the eardrum, transmit vibrations between the tympanic membrane and the inner ear. The tympanic membrane vibrates the malleus or the hammer vibrates the incus or the anvil vibrates the stapes, and the stapes vibrates against the oval window, and there's an annular ligament which lies in between the foot plate of the stapes and the oval window. The oval window moves fluids in the inner ear which stimulate the hearing receptors. This is the mechanism of transmission of the sound waves into the internal ear. Okay, here you can see the three ossicles: the malleus, the incus, the stapes. The malleus has a head, a neck, anterior process, lateral process and handle. Incus has a body, a short process and a long process, and a lenticular process. Stapes is the smallest of the three and is placed medially. It consists of a head, a neck, two limbs or crura, and a foot plate or base which lies over the oval window. Now there are two joints between these three ossicles. One is incudo-malleolar joint, which is a saddle joint, and the other one is incudo-stapedial joint, which is a ball and socket joint. You can easily assess that the first one lies between the incus and the malleus, and the second joint lies between the incus and stapes. Here you can see the different parts of the three ossicles that I just discussed. This first bone is malleus. So this is the head of the malleus, neck of the malleus. This is the neck of the malleus, anterior process, lateral process, manubrium or handle of malleus, which is attached to the medial surface of the tympanic membrane. The second bone is incus. This is the body of incus. This is a short process of incus. This is the long process of incus, and this is the lenticular process of incus, which articulates with the head of stapes. This is stapes, head of stapes, neck of stapes. These are the two limbs or crura of stapes, and this is the base plate or the foot plate of stapes. Now the muscles associated with the ossicles and the ligaments of the ossicles, these are, we know that we already talked about the two muscles. This is the tensor tympani muscle, which is entering the middle ear cavity through its anterior wall through a canal, and it is being attached onto the handle of malleus. And the other muscle that we see is stapedius here, which lies in between the pyramidal process and the neck of stapes. The ligaments that, okay, let's talk about the ligaments in the next slide. I just want you to see the muscles first. Now the first muscle, the tensor tympani muscle, it originates from the cartilaginous part of eustachian tube, its own bony canal. It is inserted into the upper part of handle of malleus. The nerve supply comes from a branch of mandibular nerve, which is coming from the trigeminal nerve. The action is the tensing, that it tenses the tympanic membrane to reduce the force of vibrations in response to loud noises. The second muscle is stapedius, which is arising from the pyramidal eminence. It is being inserted onto the neck of stapes. It is innervated by a branch of facial nerve through a branch to stapedius, and the action of this muscle is that it pulls the stapes posteriorly and prevents excessive oscillation in loud noises. So it prevents the excessive vibration of the foot plate of stapes, thus dampening down the loud noises. We already talked about the muscles, and we also talked about that the function of these muscles is to help maintain the ossicles in proper position, to protect the inner ear from excessive sound levels. Okay. Now the ligaments of the ossicles are the anterior ligament of malleus and the lateral ligament of malleus, and then we have a superior ligament of malleus. So we have two superior ligaments. We have a superior ligament of malleus, we have a superior ligament of incus. Okay, then for malleus we have anterior ligament and a lateral ligament, and for incus we have a posterior ligament. Now in this diagram I just want you to revise the structures that we've already studied. So this is the tympanic membrane, this is the the head of malleus, this is the body of incus, this is stapes, this is promontory or the tympanic plexus on the promontory made up by the glossopharyngeal nerves. Here also we can identify that this is malleus, incus, stapes, this muscle is stapedius, this is tensor tympani muscle, this is handle of malleus, this is external acoustic meatus or external auditory canal, this is hypotympanum, this is tympanic cavity proper, and this is attic. Into the attic extends the head of malleus and the body of incus. Now talking about the mechanism of hearing or the transmission of sound through the middle ear cavity from the external ear to the internal ear. Okay. Now here in this video, I just want you to have a look at the transmission of the sound waves. This is the external ear through which the sound waves are entering, auricle, and then the external auditory meatus or external auditory canal. This is the coronal section. So you can see half of the tympanic membrane being vibrated by the sound waves. We can see that the handle of the malleus is attached on the medial surface of the tympanic membrane. This is malleus, incus, and this is stapes closing the oval window. You can see that the sound waves are being transmitted into vibrations through the tympanic cavity, and they are transmitted through the footplate of stapes into the internal ear. This structure that you see is the internal ear, and this shell, the snail's shell, is the cochlea, and inside the cochlea these are the organ of Corti, the hearing receptors, which these blue are cilia in the organ of Corti, and they are vibrating, and the sound is received through the vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how the sound waves enter and are transmitted to the internal ear. Okay, here in this video also, just have a look how the sound waves are transmitted. They enter the auricle, the external auditory meatus, the eardrum. This is how the ossicles move. Malleus, this is the next bone is incus. The malleus moves the incus. The incus is attached to the stapes. The stapes moves, and both the muscles, the tensor tympani and the stapedius, they dampen down the sounds. They dampen down the waves. This is the cochlea. These are parts of internal ear, so I'm not going to tell you the details. This is the organ of Corti, spiral organ of Corti, which is the hearing receptor, which receives the sound, and the signals are taken up by the vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay, now let's discuss about the clinical aspects of the middle ear cavity. The first condition that I wanna tell you about the middle ear cavity is the otitis media, which can be acute or chronic. Otitis media is presented as earache and a bulging red tympanic membrane. It may indicate pus or fluid in the middle ear cavity, which is a sign of otitis media. So the presence of pus or fluid in the middle ear cavity is a sign of otitis media. And infection of the middle ear is often secondary to upper respiratory infections. Inflammation and swelling of the mucous membrane lining the tympanic cavity may cause partial or complete blockage of the pharyngotympanic tube, and the tympanic membrane becomes red and it bulges, and then the person may complain of ear popping. An amber colored bloody fluid may be observed through the tympanic membrane. There can be perforation of the tympanic membrane in chronic otitis media, in which the eardrum is ruptured, and there can be otorrhea, a discharge, and from the middle ear, and there can be deafness. Okay, and then the next condition is hyperacusis. Hyperacusis is the increased sensitivity to the sound waves. When there is decreased tolerance to the sound waves, we call this hyperacusis. And as we know that the muscles that are present in the middle ear cavity, they dampen down the sound waves. When there is paralysis of these muscle, if there is the nerve supply is cut, then because of the excessive vibrations of these ossicles, they can be hyperacusis. For example, in seventh nerve palsy, facial nerves palsy, or Bell's palsy, which is the low motor neuron paralysis, we often the patients present with hyperacusis, and then there can be blockage of eustachian tube. Let's see in the next slides what we have. The first slide shows us about the otitis media. I already discussed this, that the otitis media is more common in children because the auditory tube is short and horizontal, and infections can easily spread from throat to the tympanic cavity. Tympanostomy is lancing tympanic membrane and draining fluid from the tympanic cavity, meaning we make a hole in the tympanic membrane so the fluid can be drained from the tympanic cavity. This is mastoiditis. We can see in this picture that the retroauricular groove that is present in between the pinna and the side of the head is obliterated, which is present normally. This is because of the swelling in the mastoid process and the mastoid air cells. We also discussed hyperacusis in facial palsy. This is a picture of the air model in which we see this is helix, this is crura of helix, this is antihelix and crura of antihelix. This is triangular fossa, this is scaphoid fossa. Here is the Darwin's tubercle, Simba conchi, and this is concha. This is tragus, this is antitragus, this is intertragic notch. These are the features of the external ear. And if we remove the anterior wall, we see a coronal section of this, then we can also see the external acoustic meatus or the external auditory canal. We can see the tympanic membrane, we can see the ear ossicles, we can see the eustachian tube, we can see this muscle, the tensor tympani muscle, we can see the internal carotid artery here, and these are the parts of internal ear. Here in this diagram we can see that this is the medial surface of the tympanic membrane. This is sulcus tympanicus. This is tympanic membrane, pars tensa. This is head of malleus. This is body of incus, short process of incus, long process of incus, lenticular process of incus. Then this is the tendon of the tensor tympani muscle attached to the handle of the malleus. Then this nerve that is passing in between, this nerve that passes from the medial aspect of the handle of malleus is the cauda tympani nerve that passes through this. Okay, that's all for the middle ear cavity. Thank you very much.